Good morning. Hello, good morning, Ima.
Well, good morning.
Na impom ti say pay.
Adomo na monso e.
Ye kokwamu kakrakra.
Sure.
Minia dollar ya aba for ma bedru 80. Ye betimi ahu say e translate on the ground say e ma enomabo aba from bia e da ide anim ye.
Mamema one wati for ache. Na the omune say because of say Ghana a very import dependent inti. And I must have conversation in krabe ade ho akohia kese. Na yenye importation of final goods nko, importation of inputs nso. Manufacturing companies in the Ghana has a omo import raw materials no ma add value no ma produce final goods nti na ho akohia se sika na ho asemo ba na we take keen interest in that na emma wasema ubusa so say reduction of the stability of CDA which now translate to prices of goods and services no correct ebetumi ama goods ne niema bi aye tonton na perform but ne nyinaa no ne stability of the currency businessman there the enko ne say throughout the year na aka say dollar to a cedi be 10 cedis na be gina saa mpa open no chance say ebetumi aba from na sa akosoro over a period of time nti ne nyinaa no say the form ba no ne nyinaa no yɛ stability how we can sustain a year appreciation yeah currently facing Ghana cedi and the dollar.
Nti enemanimi ya no ye ntimi hu say enomabo no e ba from.
Yɛbɛtumi ahu adeɛ baako nso koraa ne sɛ ɛna menyaa no nti yɛ sɛ at the port no aban ate rate no so ɔde charge for duty nti ne nyinaa no kyerɛ sɛ ɛwɔ sɛ nneɛma ba fam sɛnea yɛhwehwɛ no no but sɛnea yɛbɛtumi asustain ne fam ba no ne sɛ ɛyɛ goods no a yɛkra ba no daakye bia nka yɛtumi produce wɔ ha deɛ no koraa deɛ nka yɛbɛtumi ama stability aba more. But at present, sɛnea ɛwɔ no Ghana very import dependent but yɛbɛtumi asustain a ne nyinaa ne sɛ currency no appreciation no it has to be sustained over a period sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a adwadifoɔ nso a wɔn kɔfa nneɛma aba no they will be very willing to reduce nneɛma no a wɔn nso wɔn akɔfa ɛfiri abɔkyi aba.
Opini mate say some economists and financial experts describe the cedi say volatile na untimi predict say wochina ebe jumpo anase ebe kɔ fam ebiem samo ka ne sa na se kyerɛ ne say na de na mugina so edeka say volatile.
There are a couple of factors into massive years appreciation a year. Be external, be a domestic. Na external the nenya buying a Ghana buying and a mana kobanesa. The dollar itself is facing some challenges because of Fed rate. Our reduces and increase your policy rate. Into a demand for dollar but for men currency na wanting and so acco a year from. China is still recording cases with COVID and demand for a crude oil product in a conformity. Crude oil prices and so on the international level in terms of demand and so so how much you have to spend in importing crude oil no so about from fair stability Ghana had yet to me in terms of policy because everything attributed to a form the Bank of Ghana say on support the importation of rice, oil, cooking oil, the cake. And he said, yeah, kind of sad we have to because Ghana as I speak to you now, no. In terms of fundamentals, no, our economic fundamentals, no, it is not that strong for us to say this CD appreciation can be sustained. Last week, in a staff level agreement, investor confidence has started the air bank. Into be external, be a domestic, but the sustaining on they also get to me, they also get to me domestically to sustain the currency appreciation. And they say we add value to a near maybe you bit my produce or near maybe or why bit me produce waha or see to year waha. Then every year we don't have to, spend a lot of foreign currency importing them into Ghana.
Do you see any signs from a year budget 2023 Abino at the Ghana for say they talk about a year an export-driven agenda and non-person will pursue in 2023? Do you see that reflective in the budget?
Policy back and I look forward to its implementation. In Saban, HSO 110 hectares of lands a day by a large cultivation of near maybe a crabber. I am very keen about that policy. Say and complementing already what we have, the one district, one factory, the planting for food and jobs. Send near maybe a crabber. They do no. If me so at least in the short to medium term, get me produce ha. And na a year idea about what mentioning. Of course, a year entrepreneurship you start name the cake honor. We look forward to see it to me the pilot stage has been done now, master to get investment. It me Ghana and we don't have to use a lot of foreign currency to import maybe and keep it to me import but and again maybe I won't want more we can also produce them in Ghana and then export them to all over the world.
Obani, where the unkoma emidentino, when see I'm frail on issues to do with debt restructuring and issues to do with suspension of the external debtor, but when you are and a suspension, finance ministry announced, and you be an opposition anything on it.
What they could do, we don't have an option. And they say, the debt restructuring and they say, economy, both domestic and external. And the unilateral decision, no making say, or put your hold on a year's, meeting the obligation on external credit. Send you be to make a collective conversation about it. Now, if you saw this a year press release, you by me who say, almost all hold your bonds externally, also want to engage because all the meka na kobana say cano untumi ntua no sene a catch them so will be ubetua na then we have to have a conversation about restructuring. But na say then you could do her. See, we are using about 70% of our tax revenue to service our debt. It's sustainable. Yet, you restructure your debt. You be doing maybe a compensation to government employees. Because Sika and so one could say was your debt restructuring. But the bigger question is then you be do her because we have been borrowing excessively. And our revenues are not able to meet the expenditure. This year, over the past decade, and more importantly, over the past 6 years, across the year, and our revenue is not able to meet that. And the IMF and so in the press release last week, they said, and some board no be approval no say staff level agreement yenya no and some board no be approval no more hear them say yet restructuring both domestic side and external side, you be making sufficient progress on it. And so I buy my own say no I buy so the statement we have say deadline for domestic restructuring, so I extended and I was starting conversation with the external side. See to me and the idea a bit to me abwa my team and said to me a cat 3 billion I name in the first quarter of 2023. And only bit my boy my some stability but going forward an IMF program beyond the IMF program also to me build a resilient economy a bit to me in terms of external crisis but home country
Open okay say excessive borrowing and the diabetes sample so we say excessive borrowing so super because you ya draw your plan your budget mu you nim say ebia sika ebenya wo man nim ye mfa ne say be 100 million na mum ya adwene say do ye sika 100 million no ye pese you spend 200 million and so there's a budget deficit. Mission business say as economists as finance folks we nim prefer say we sika obenya 100 Now when your budget no to meet the 100 now benyano na ekowiase almost a budget deficit ebia 50%, ebia 13%, ebia 20%. Why should there always be a budget deficit, especially at the time I need say isikasem enkoyi?
That's a great question. But on my beer nigan Riasimu has a year on run some level of budget deficit. But Ninjan say, what are you using the deficit for? And can your problem saying Ghana and go for budget deficit any public debt to GDP ratio? No, it be 200%, 150%, but Ghana it is say about 100%. And so you're watching, didn't you watching and say you're using about 70% of your tax revenue to pay a year amortization. HSA, the budget deficit, and if it is used to invest in capital expenditure, and Kenya problem. But the Ghana, they say, over the past decade, no, a lot of the loans are to finance the budget deficit, the draw consumption instead of capital expenditure. Into your basa feed ye bitiano, and say a watch ye. And over the period, menka say loans in the loans in the year capital expenditure to say your first gas plant, you use a loan to do it. In your semblance of money, loans are no to do capital expenditure. A bit to sanka, bray also you tear your loans, and Kenya problem. But here we are as a country, because of say revenue is underperforming at the same time your expenditure quite an caution. Your loans need be brayaji, especially in the past 6 to 10 years, it be brainance consumption. Into a buy, yes, I was here to your loan, and I see a watch. I saw ya banduma. That's also called you loan. Not loan, no. Obi the origin, yes, or the be provision store one chain. I bet me are supporting the business. Now the Okoji loan, no say, would they cotton taddy and ampabo. At the end of the day, a bassa wood, you're no dear provision store, and for soccer crowd in your provision store, betting the 2 year bessiano. Now once what the cotton taddy, no, what the cotton taddy and I share in the abasa obitia. What are you going to do about it? Indeed, a Kamiako consumption component of our budget deficit and our public debt and over the past decade, and our cost for into our fedia base a year in public debt to GDP 100%. But countries do Japan, America, more budget deficit more than 100%, but they are not worried because they can service it very well. But any year you see 70% of our tax revenue and the interest on our loans. Interest to pay. It is about a year tax 100 cedis, 70 cedis, they got your interest on loans, 30 cedis, and then a debate compensation to government employees, statutory payment, goods and services, capital expenditure, and thereby no, they know, and yes, sustainable, in the debt restructuring, and the component of a year interest payment, number conform. In the short to medium term.
What's your statement? The Ministry of Finance for Ediba and they envisaged by the first quarter the IMF no bibia atudia one more agiatumu. But Osha the movement on the ground with trade unions, one more kick against touching one more pensions fund. And not GMA for one more statement by Nina to back the course by 27th day. I buy any one more pensions fund and free more. One more Eddie Mojuma added to form. One of the two are we know the implications for us as a nation. The timelines are they likely to be met?
Adding, but before the announcement of domestic debt restructuring, I was expecting some level of a broad consultation because when I now say I feel they want to mean to you. You don't sit in your corner and tell me say this is how I'm pushing it to you. But any main kasa. Now also mommy assurances to say a DNT I mean to you cannot due to these factors. How am I going to resolve it? And but I think the pension component not there. So if you do the calculations very well, yen debt now. Firms and institutions and a Senate in terms of their investment in government bonds, they can look at the numbers and see how best they can touch it. because the pensions no the people are on pension or near Jumabia no didi wo ho akowum na be ka say one man a new bonds na 0% for 2023 5% for 2024. I mean sure say it's going to affect our pensioners big time. So ban tena se no ye calculation no hwe no obetumi ayi pension na free mu a only film because I know they are very immediate. Only pana pension, but in the working life there, and as a was say there, you bet me I then at was about brackets can be go, but pensioners not there. Taban ye calculation in the bit about so bit my be for alpha one. Also, yeah, from both net and yeah, institutional investors in the pension scheme. I'll may invest because if you take for time I started the tier 2 no a buy no any tier 3 no. So institutional investors yi sika bebree akɔma aban. Nti sɛ kɔba say yɛbɛyɛ restructuring na wo pension wo tier 1 ho bɛka na wo tier 2 ho bɛka na ɔmo yɛ tier 3 crowns ho bɛka deɛ. There's a so I think if government can do something about it, and I should say government should be able to look at how best or back crunching numbers, not to make pension the NFM. And more importantly, about also the in this debt restriction, you have to show commitment to say metumia cutting maybe as a buying. Send a bay and nipa na audio mokene, also say moma me break a crowd, almost won't be too many regime say okay aban ampa wo no ho akyerɛ first maybe o ministers 80 see what is over 60 first na sika bi allocation bi be 100 million say be about 50 million be aban ho akyerɛ bi nyina yɛ more. But more importantly, that restructure, and you can say in silo, but you do it in collaboration with fiscal consolidation, prudent macroeconomic management, expenditure rationalizations. They will have confidence in you. Say, so in the short term, no, you sacrifice until such a time you bring macroeconomic stability.
Ima, it's always good to speak to you. Our platforms, so.